like to call our meeting of the Harwich Planning Board to order. It's Tuesday, February 26th at 6:30. A couple of points of order here. We have a recording and taping notification, and I'm required by law to ask if anybody in the audience would seek to audio or video record this proceeding. Please let us know. Anybody? Okay, and also another point of order is if you intend to speak or you have questions, and we welcome that, you know, step up to the podium or come and sit here and let us know your name and address, and then make your point. And we're trying to be as courteous to one another as we can be and keep the meeting moving along. So with that, we have a public hearing. We've got 3 items under the public hearing section. PB 2019-01, Robert D. Freitas Jr., and PB 2019-03, Harwich Retail.
You do have to read each one individually as you call them to order.
Okay, all the way in. Okay.
Yeah.
And back to 2019-01, Robert D. Freitas as owner seeks approval to amend a use special permit for alternative access pursuant to the Code of the Town of Harwich, Section 325-18.p. The proposal with waivers seeks access via a private easement at the end of Argyle Way North. The property is located at 22 Argyle Way North, map 64, parcel C1-2 in the RR and W-R zoning districts. And this is from the 2/12 meeting that was canceled. The second is...
No, you
we'll
don't
just
have to
keep
read
going
that.
here. Okay.
Because you have to open and then close and
okay.
continue. And
So,
Well, I'm Robert Freitas, and basically the alternative access was approved back when the land was subdivided. They wanted the driveway off of Argyle, and we wanted to shift it to the easement because the width and the slope of the frontage here is where it was supposed to go was really small.
yep.
And I'd have to cut down all the trees between the neighbor and this house to regrade everything. So this way, a lot less destruction and a lot easier to fit in, basically, is
Yeah.
the gist.
Okay. Charlene, any comments?
just a couple, just to kind of clarify. This was a 3-lot subdivision that was approved back in 2012. Lot 24 Argyle Way is at the very end, and that's what had the easement originally. Now 22 Argyle is which is Lot 2, is now seeking to also have its access from that easement. Within Mr. Freitas' letter of January 6, 2019, he states he'd like to be able to access this lot from Argyle Way North for the easement and not constricted to one or the other. I did send Mr. Freitas an email on the 14th of January indicating that the entire premise principle for allowing the alternative access is for a specific and certain reason. Mr. Freitas did agree and made it clear that he would take the access from this easement for Lot 2. The reasoning for the request, I do believe, are quite valid and do appear to be superior than gaining the access from the frontage. The cut and fill will be minimized and far less trees would have to be removed. He is requesting a waiver that all requirements of the rules and regs for this amended special permit application as the original plan and submittal were previously accepted, and this is just a minor change from what had been originally requested. So that's
Okay.
all I have.
Thank you, Charlene. Any comments from any of the board members?
I just have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
So lot 1 and 3 will share the proposed driveway, which is taking place in the easement?
Yeah, correct.
No, it's 1 and 2.
1
Oh,
and 2?
1
One
and
and
2,
two.
right, sorry, 1 and 2.
Okay, yeah, 2 and... one and-
Lot 3 will
Okay.
be gaining its from the frontage unless he wants to come back
Got it.
later.
Well, Lot 3 has a lot of frontage, like 100 and,
Yeah.
well, it has 150 feet of frontage, so that has plenty.
Yep.
Okay.
The other two lots, basically, their frontage was on Depot, and the town didn't want anyone to come off of Depot
Okay.
when I first subdivided it, so that's where the access came from.
And does that, your proposal negate the steepness of the
Yeah,
grade?
yep,
Okay.
because it spreads it out a lot more, because the driveways, the steepness is a lot tighter on the far left side of the
Yeah.
semicircle than
Yeah.
up the middle. You can actually kind of see the slopes.
Yeah, I
It
took
just
a
has a
ride
lot
up
more
there.
length, actually, is what it is. The slope is basically the same, but you have so much more length that it's not a problem, where
Yep.
the other way is
Good going like
a lot
that.
shorter.
Yeah. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay.
There's lot one.
Anyone else on the board have any
I don't see it.
questions for Mr.
You
Freitas?
can't see.
right there, actually.
Yeah, it's,
I can show you a drawing if you, I haven't, the old subdivision plan.
So that's not it up there on the,
There-
It's the one straight ahead.
It's-
2 and 3.
Yeah, lot one's right there.
it's that way.
I'm sorry.
Off the, yeah.
It's just straight
So
ahead.
if you went straight up the,
Oh, up in the back here.
Yeah,
not, yeah, not showing on here, but.
I got you. Okay.
yeah, it's just perfectly.
It's not a part of this anyway, so it's,
It's not a priority, but it's just straight in, right there. And that's the depot where it has its front.
Thanks.
yep, thank you. Okay, any comments from anyone in the audience? Okay. Joe?
move to close the hearing?
We have to take roll call. So, all in favor? David?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Mr. Vice?
Aye.
Aye.
Move to adopt the following findings of fact. One, the alternative access proposed is superior to the access along the frontage as there is steep topography and many trees along the frontage of 22 Argyle Way North. Two, the alternate access is proposed to be cleared to a minimum of 16 feet in width and 16 feet in height. Three, access is proposed from an easement to another lot, with each lot having the required legal frontage of 150 feet for the RR zoning district. Four, the plan provides for efficient and safe disposal of surface water. Five, the use is consistent with the zoning code and will not adversely affect the neighborhood. Six, the request waivers will not substantially derogate from the purpose and intent of this bylaw, and that such a waiver may be granted without substantial detriment to the neighborhood or overall public good. Seven, there will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Oh, we got a,
Yeah, David?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
Joe?
aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Aye.
Move to adopt the following, I'm sorry, we just did that. A move to approve the conditions, the use special permit and waivers requested for the proposed shared access way for 22 Argyle Way North, based on the fact that the application meets the necessary requirements and criteria for approval pursuant to the Code of Town of Harwich, with the above findings and following conditions. One, the special permit decision will be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. Two, any change to the site plan shall be subject to further planning board review.
Second? Okay, vote by roll call. David?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Alan? Aye. Aye. That's it.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Hope all the others go this smoothly.
Thank you very much. Okay, next we have PB 2019-03 Harwich Retail LLC as applicant, care of Matthew Bombasi. Is that correct?
You have it. You might be the first person ever.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, I said it right the first time.
Bowler Engineering, Representative Bruce McGregor. Sunrise Nominee Trust is owner. Seeks approval of site plan review special permit with waivers to construct 7,489 plus or minus square foot retail structure and a use special permit for structures requiring 20 or more parking spaces. Application is pursuant to the code of the town of Harwich, section 325-09, -51 and -55. The properties are located at 48 and 52 Route 28, map 10, parcels D4-1 and -2 in the C-H-1 and R-R zoning districts. This was also from 212. So, are you Mr. McGregor?
I am not, no, I'm Chad Brubaker, I'm a representative of the applicant.
Okay.
What's your name again?
Chad Brubaker?
Chad
Thank you.
Brubaker.
Announcement again for the record, my name is Matt Bombasi with Bowler Engineering. As you said, we're here for a project at 52 Route 28. It's for a 7,489 square foot retail store.
Yes.
It's the existing property is the Captain Baker House at the corner of Depot Road and Main Street. Proposing this retail store, 30 parking spaces with access off of Route 28 and Depot Road West. We've provided interior landscaping and requirements with the town zoning. In a lighting plan with cutoff shielded lights, back shielding, things like that in consideration of the retail abutter. One waiver request we are asking for is for a parking reduction waiver. Zoning requires 40 parking spaces. Based on the applicant's extensive experience with this type of facility, 30 parking spaces is more than enough. We've also could interpolate ITE, the Institute of Transportation Engineers, trip generation data. Typically, it's 52 trips in the PM peak hour, which would be equivalent to 26 customers. A customer at a store like HIT, this is only there for 10 minutes, so so quite a bit of data. We've done parking counts and things for these types of facilities, and 30 is expected to be more than enough. I provided Charlene and the board an exhibit of how we could provide 40 spaces. There's certainly room on site. There's going to be quite a bit of green space when complete, but again, we just as in the interest of preserving green space and reducing impervious area, provide the 30 spaces. We provided a drainage system that's been reviewed by the town engineer. It's about 5,000 cubic feet of underground storage that'll infiltrate into the ground. That's been reviewed by the town engineer, and he's checked off on that. He asked that we not connect out to the drainage system, which we respected. For utilities, water and gas are available at Depot Road and Main Street. We got a note from the highway department not to connect out to Depot Road. I guess is recently paved and they have a moratorium. We do have it available at Main Street as well. Septic system, we're intending on using the existing septic field associated with that dwelling. That's had a Title V inspection and that's passed. I believe that was submitted to the Board of Health to get that permit. For traffic, it's a low trip generator. We submitted a trip generation memorandum to the board. Like I said, 52 trips in the peak hour, which is far less than anything that would trigger any type of ITE additional studies and things like that. It was reviewed by the police. They did have a few comments. When they asked for some clarification on the trips, that it was a retail store, it could have different types of uses. We gave them a breakdown of different retail uses that could be in the building. The category that we chose, variety store, was the peak, the most that would be for any type of general retail store. Obviously, a fast food restaurant or a coffee shop or things like that would have more, but is intended on being permitted as just a retail store.
I think they're having trouble hearing. If you want to bring that closer.
Sure. Oh, sorry. There are other comments, so they were asking about the Route 28.
Is that better? Can you hear?
Yep, sure. Sure. The police department also asked about the Route 28 driveway. That driveway, we submitted an application to DOT for a driveway access permit. That's under review. We've heard from them. They have a couple questions on the drainage and utility connections, but nothing regarding the configuration yet. They're the sole jurisdiction for that driveway. So whatever their requirements are, we'll abide by those. The police additional comments were regarding site distance for the Depot Road West driveway.
Yes.
There's some shrubs and trees kind of along our frontage, and then along 12 Depot Road, which is a little north of our site, there's some arborvitae trees. We did a site distance analysis and exhibit, and the minimum site distance is provided by removing the trees at the property corner of our property, looking north up Depot Road West. That said, the police department did suggest that removing the arborvitae's in front of 12 Depot Road West would be beneficial for site distance, not only for our site, but probably the road itself. We don't have a particular problem removing those shrubs, it's just they're associated with 12 Depot Road West. They're in the right-of-way, but again, they kind of have some interest in them, and one note we did get from them is they were concerned about their privacy. So again, if the board compelled us, or compelled the 12 Depot Road West to remove those arborvitae's, we'd have no problem removing them. It's just we can't promise they would be amenable to it, or that we can do that without their permission. Comments from staff. Our original submission did not include a building footprint or signage details, which we submitted subsequent to our initial submission. Charlene had raised one comment regarding the parking spaces, which are at the kind of right in as you're pulling in the driveway, the two ADA spaces, which are kind of reflected in blue on the exhibit I brought. The concern being a car backing out there might conflict with a car pulling in. It's about 60 feet from the road to those spaces. We feel there's enough space for that to work. That said, it's not an unreasonable comment. Certainly, I think our preference would be to keep the 80 spaces close to the entrance, but if the board was preferred a landscape island there and moving them over, I think we would be amenable to that. For architecture,
You also got them big on the screen.
oh, better. For architecture, there are no architectural requirements in the zoning, but we did meet with Charlene and staff prior to putting our application together, and got the sense that the town would be, obviously, as anyone would be interested in the appearance of the building. So we took an effort to put our best foot forward to provide architecture that would be aesthetically pleasing and kind of match the corridor. It includes clapboard siding, peaked roofs, windows, kind of dormers, awnings, a brick facade along the bottom. We think this meets the kind of the character of the area, and again, I think is a little above and beyond what would otherwise be required. One interesting, or I guess a little bit unique situation with this lot is there's the existing house that's jurisdictional under the local historical commission. The applicant filed a demolition permit for the project, and it was subject to demolition delay, which is 12 months from the date of that decision, which was September 12th, 2018. So the applicant's intending on moving forward with this project, and then just also complying with the demolition delay and waiting that year until they demolish the building. There were a few abutter comments or different comments from people in the town that we received prior to the hearing. Two comments in particular were from the two abutters to the north, both of them asking about privacy of their lot. We are proposing a screen fence along the northern property boundary, along the entire way between our lot and their lot. I know their comments were requesting that fence, and we'd already proposed that.
Anything else?
Not unless there's specific questions, but I think it makes sense.
Okay. Charlene?
I'm realizing electronically you received the proper staff report. Your hard copy one is missing the even pages. If we can take about a 5-minute recess so I can get you the full document for each of you.
I appreciate that.
I can print it right now.
Do you want me to read these letters?
That would be perfect.
I'll do that.
Actually, why don't you do that and I'll run and do those. My apologies.
Thank you.
Okay, so if you don't
Send
mind,
it to me, Charlene.
He already got it electronically.
You have it electronically.
you have it
she said.
electronically, David. Okay, so if you don't mind, for the record, I'm going to read some letters that we've received. Charlene's received them, and I'll make this a part of the record here. So the first one is from Patrick Pollock, and he sent this into Elaine Banta, who works with Charlene and the planning board. Hi, Elaine. Thanks for sharing the depth of information I was looking for related to this project. I wanted to highlight a few concerns I had. A part of the woods, quote-unquote, rendering is currently a clear path opening that is about a car length in width, where I have shaded the blue box, and that's something that Mr. Pollock did here. My point is that under current state, there is a clear path opening or access during all seasons that my property would be exposed to both noise and curious customers from this future establishment. Would additional trees be planted or can we come up with a fencing solution? You have stated that there are currently no plans to put up a fence on or near my abutting lines. You also stated that the townway is the actual abutter, but as you can see below, there is a portion of my line that will be left open. I would like to request a fencing solution at minimum where I have shaded in yellow, and we can make sure that you get a copy of this.
Yep, yeah, I have a copy of all these, Charlie.
Okay, so I will be vacationing in Florida until February 26th, which is when the hearing is set for. Please let me know what my options are to share and communicate that request with the concerned parties, and that's why we're reading this into the record. Okay. Yeah, it's from Patrick Pollock. Okay? So, the next letter that we have, you may want to pass that around. The next letter we have is from Dennis Wysocki, and he said, with respect to item PB 2019-03 on the upcoming planning board meeting, I own an adjacent property and am supportive of the development in this area, but concerned that we will lose our privacy and be subject to potential safety risk. I am unable to attend the February 26th planning board meeting in person, but I respectfully request that the town require the developer to take appropriate measures to ensure that our privacy and safety are maintained. And Mr. Wysocki lives in Newtown, Pennsylvania. Okay. The next, there you go.
Thank you.
The next is from Sally Milne, and this was received February the 8th. Hello, Charlene and planning board members. On February 12th, you will address a project for a retail store and demolition of the historic home at 52 Route 28. My neighbors and I in West Harwich embrace change, and we support and hope for a business that can thrive. I do wish, however, that Harwich also consider a holistic planning approach as to what type of place we want to become and not demolish our town in the process. Consideration of our history is one of the many variables that can be profitable and healthy for everyone. With no such guidelines currently in place on our town's character and built environment will be negatively impacted. How do we see ourselves? Are we a quiet retirement town, a fancy tourist attraction, or just a nondescript place? Are we proud of our history and want to incorporate it, or just demolish and move on? We will need to have these discussions. So as you begin the process of approval for this project, I would ask that you consider the following points regarding this project's impacts and design elements so that we might be able to create something that is an enhancement to the town and not just another retail store. Number one, this project is in an area approved for becoming a National Register Historic District. Number two, Mass DOT approved a TIP project, TIP project for Route 28 West Harwich that includes historically influenced design elements, lighting, post and rail fencing, or brick inlay in the roadbed. Number three, please evaluate scale and visual design of this project to help promote plans to fit within a National Registered District and within an area of many private residences. Number four, what traffic impacts will occur, especially during summer, and with a 6-house subdivision also being built behind number 96 and number 97, Route 28. Number five, how can this new retail store project become an enhancement rather than an intrusion? Number six, the plume from the Dennisport dry cleaners will need to be addressed. Disturbance at the proposed project site could release the plume with detrimental health issues. Mass EPA Southeastern Division for Site Cleanup has reported there are still pockets of the plume on Silver Street and Depot. Number seven, what type of retail is being planned? The approval of the project should be with specifics to the type of business proposed, as design elements would vary. And number 8, and ideally, how can the historic home be incorporated into plans in whole or in part? There is a 1-year demolition delay imposed so that conversations with the developer can seek alternatives to demolition. To date, the developer has offered only one, that the community pay to have the building moved to another property. I appreciate your efforts in this matter, Sally Urbano. Pass that around. Next, this is from Walter Koslowski, and he wrote on February 24th to Charlene. I would like to offer a few comments about the proposed project located at the corner of Depot Street and Route 28 in West Harwich. I'm not sure how the process for approving a project works, and in parens, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one, close parens, but I can't see that tearing down yet another building to put up another proposed business can be of benefit to the neighborhood of West Harwich or to the town in general. A ride down Route 28 from Harwich to Yarmouth shows a large number, I think, of empty retail buildings. Some are big, and in parens, Benny's, close parens. Some are half occupied, parens, dollar store and Dennisport, close, parens, and some are small and just sitting there, Thistle Appliance. There's some new construction, Orleans Auto in Dennisport, which left an empty building in West Harwich, and some renovations to existing buildings, a mill store in West Harwich. I even notice a number of unsung heroes have renovated homes on the same strip of road. Good for them, so it can be done. Anyone contemplating building any retail shop with 30 parking spaces needs to sit on Route 28 on a rainy day in the summer when the traffic is backed up to Herring River going toward Dennisport. Or they can come sit on my porch on Willow Street and watch the big box trucks that don't want to wait in traffic try to get around the corner from Belmont and onto Willow. The intersection of Belmont and Route 28 is awful on a good day. I once watched a police officer come off of Belmont and turn his blue lights on just to get across Route 28. I'm so old I remember when the West Harwich Post Office was located across from the Baptist Church. The town used to hire summer cops, quote unquote, to help people cross the street and direct traffic. I live in a house that was built in the 1840s. I won't say it's been well taken care of, but it's more than livable. And we are living in it. Renovating and taking care of these older properties is twofold. It would teach some of the younger generation how to preserve what they have and also provide housing. I'm grateful the generations before me thought that way. Thank you for listening. Cynthia Kozlowski, 33 Willow Street. And then we have a letter from Ann Stewart. She's from 518 Pleasant Lake Lane, and she wrote to Charlene, Dear Miss Greenhouse, I'm unable to make it to the February 12th Planning Board meeting because of work. So I'd like to take this opportunity to make a few observations about the proposed demolition of the Captain Baker House at the corner of Route 28 and Depot. First of all, I'm a resident of Pleasant Lake, and I'm not directly connected with the Captain's Row Historic District. Nevertheless, I approve of doing the utmost to maintain all historic structures in all the villages of Harwich. This house has architectural beauty. Other than broken windows and overgrown shrubbery and peeling paint, from the exterior it looks sound with a straight roofline which indicates structural integrity. I have no doubt that it would be cheaper to tear it down and build something new than to restore it. I've restored cottages in Harwich that would have been easier and cheaper to tear down and rebuild, so I understand the economics involved in restoration. Yet the houses I have restored have all the charm they ever had and meet current building codes. It was expensive, but worth it, because that is what people come here for, to see, quote unquote, old Cape Cod. If every time an old house needs repairs and restoration, the owner is allowed to tear it down, then what sense is there having historic districts and an historic commission to oversee neighborhoods? It was said in a recent Chronicle article that the building is structurally unsound and presents a life safety issue and needs to be demolished. Well, a few old boards on a staircase could be a life safety issue. The planning board should be told specifically what needs to be repaired. If the proposed building has been designed with 30 parking spaces and is anticipated to be a low-traffic generator, then why hasn't the type of retail store been disclosed to the planning department? That makes me suspect they plan to have a store that will be controversial in the neighborhood. There is another major concern that was not mentioned in the article. What about the toxic plume from the old dry cleaning establishment that is underneath the proposed store? Demolition and excavation for a basement area are activities that would potentially stir up the plume, making the new structure unsafe. This is certainly something that town officials should be looking into and making public. Thank you for reading this and considering all different aspects of this proposed demolition. Sincerely, Ann Stewart. Pass this around, and that's the final document, Charlene, that has to be read into the record. So are there any comments from the planning board?
Do you want me to?
Oh, what about you, Charlene?
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Nope, that's okay, and I apologize that you got the
Put these
correct
all back.
electronic, but you didn't get the correct paper copy. As mentioned, they are seeking only one waiver, and that is from off-street parking requirements. Originally, they had asked for 2 additional, but have since provided information, so they do not need those. The health department indicated that the septic system was installed in 2003 and was designed for 4 bedrooms and 1,900 square feet of office space, resulting in a total design flow of 583 gallons per day. The proposed building is 7,489 square feet of retail space, which results in a septic flow of 375 gallons per day. Therefore, the current leach field is appropriately sized for the proposed use as long as it is in good working order. The health department requires that several items be completed prior to a building permit sign-off. A Title V inspection must be completed to ensure the leach field is in acceptable condition. A 2-compartment septic tank or 2 tanks in series be installed, and a disposal system construction permit application must be applied for by a licensed septic installer and include an updated design plan. Fire department has no concerns. They say it's an excellent use of the property. Conservation, no concerns. It's not within their jurisdiction. Engineering provided a lengthy comment. Suffice to say that they were fine with the design of the drainage as submitted. Highway department, the concerns of the highway department was primarily regarding the emergency storm overflow. This has since been removed at their request. The other is comments that were raised by Matt regarding pavement cut on Depot Road West. It was resurfaced back in the fall of 2016, and there is a moratorium for no road cuts, but they'll be able to work with highway if the board should approve this. The police department, they provided lengthy comments as well. I'm not going to read those verbatim. Those concerns that were raised by the police department have been addressed by the applicant. And the building department has indicated that, of course, building permits will be required. My comments. The legal notice, unfortunately, once again, contain a minor error relative to the residential zoning district. The correct district is RM, not RR, as noticed. Again, this is not a fatal error, and no portion of the residential district will be altered or used, and the requirements for both RR and RM districts are essentially the same. And I'm actually going to go.
Fix that.
Ooh. And my computer is frozen, so I can't show that. On January 18th, 2019, I sent an email to Matt with Bowler Engineering outlining questions and or comments that I had regarding the site plan. He did submit a letter on January 29th, and additional plans submitted satisfies many of the questions and comments that I did raise at that time. 3, the existing lot line between the two parcels will need to be expunged. The following condition is recommended: prior to the issuance of a building permit, an approval not required plan shall be filed with the planning board showing the merging of 48 and 52 Route 28, shown in assessor's maps 10 as parcels D4-1 and D4-2. I do concur with the comments raised by the police, and these were shared with the representative and my email of January 18th. Again, those have been addressed. 5, although the layout of the parking is consistent with the planning bylaw rules and regs, I do still remain a bit concerned with the proximity of parking, particularly the HP spaces, to the proposed entrance exit from Route 28. In the event that a car is backing out of these parking spaces, there may be stacking of cars entering the site out onto Route 28. This has been shared with the representative, and he did mention that. Number 6, the plan has been designed to pull the development away from the road right-of-way to the north side. The rear portions of 48 and 52 Route 28 are located within the RM zoning district. 7, the proposed landscaping for the site is adequate. 8, generic sign plans have been provided. Signage will need to comply with the sign code requirements within zoning bylaw, and proper sign permits will be required from the building department. Number 9, the requested waivers for parking at this time appear adequate and appropriate. The applicant has provided a plan showing the availability of an additional 10 parking spaces should they be necessary. Of course, this does assume that the structure at 52 Route 28 will be demolished. A reminder, as I stated earlier in my staff report, this is currently under a demolition delay imposed by the Historic District and Historic Commission. The curb cut onto Route 28 will require Mass DOT review and approval. Any changes as a result of their review and approval would require the applicant to return to the planning board to modify the site plan. 11, the access onto Depot Road will have to comply with Harwich DPW requirements. Number 12, there's been no discussion regarding the hours of operation. The board may wish to condition these hours. 3, if the existing structure is to remain and used for any allowable use by right or special permit, or revised site plan would be required, and the applicant would be required to return to the planning board to modify that site plan. 4, recommended standard conditions be imposed. 5, at this time, however, I do recommend that the planning board do not rush to a decision on this matter. A continuance to allow thoughtful consideration and time for the applicant to address any concerns raised may be in order, particularly those raised by the police department. Of course, when I wrote the staff report, they had already responded to those comments. And that is all I have for right now, unless the board has any questions.
Sure, Charlene, thank you very, very much. Any questions or issues by the board? Joe?
Can you tell me, maybe I missed it, what's your intention on the old, I think it's the old rectory for the church on the corner?
The court, it's to be demolished. It's under demolition delay, so it would remain until, I guess, September 2019, and then we would be either removed or relocated at that date or prior to that date. But it's not part of this project. Yeah, it's on the plans to be raised, but also it makes a note that it's under demolition delay, so there's another process that has to happen before that can happen.
And do you currently have I mean, is this a spec, or do you have somebody who you think is going to use this building?
We're currently finalizing the terms of that. I'm representative for Scotty Development. We have an agreement to purchase the property from the current owner, and we're finalizing those terms. We represent several national retailers, so we're finalizing the terms of that right now. But we don't.
I think that answer is that you've got a prospective tenant, but you don't want to tell us who it is.
Well, we're not in a position.
You don't have to.
We're not in a position to release that as of now. We don't have I can tell you, if you look at our website, you see a lot of the work that we do. We represent several auto parts stores. We represent Dollar General. We represent Tractor Supply. We do a lot of different types of retail. We are permitting this as a general retail store. The tenant could change. The building design would not change, the layout would not change, so, you know, our permit.
You may or may not be aware that 2 buildings down on the other side of the church, an auto parts store just closed down and moved out. I mean,
I'm just saying that we do auto parts, but I'm not saying that's.
I understand.
That's
I
the final
understand.
user, but I understand. We look at all different, you know, options of different development, redevelopment. In this case, we're looking for a build to suit.
I have just one other question, Mr.
Sure, sure.
Why no parking in the back part of the lot?
That was the side that abutted the residential properties to the rear, so we just wanted to locate the parking away from those properties as much as we could.
And if I might on that, Joe, there is a cul-de-sac for the road that is just north of the property.
I see
So
that,
they
yeah.
can't go into that.
I see that.
Yeah, they need to step back from that and adhere to all the requirements there, so.
Anything-
And that will actually serve as a kind of a buffer.
Anything else, Joe?
Lastly, Mr. Chairman, I agree with our staff comment that we should go slowly. I'm not disposed to move this tonight.
Yeah, yeah. Any other comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman?
Craig?
Mary?
Mary?
Go ahead.
I can't tell on the map if there's going to be, if you're going to be able to drive through, or drive over, I guess, looks like a concrete pad from the side parking towards the rear parking.
Yep. So that's intended to be a loading area. The concrete's just to give it a little extra structural integrity. It's going to be flush with the ground, so you'll be able to drive through it.
So there will be space enough there for cars to pass both ways,
Yeah,
incoming and outgoing.
They'll be able to drive right over it. It'll be completely flush with the pavement around it.
Okay. Has there been any consideration given to limiting the Route 28 to ingress only, and then making your egress come out on Depot Road West?
Sure, yeah, that was one of the comments of the police department, was for us to look at maybe a right-in, right-out on Route 28. Ultimately, Mass DOT's the jurisdiction on that. We'll do whatever they require, and perhaps there could be a chance they don't prefer that. They would prefer a full access. Our preference would be full access, but we're going to comply with whatever Mass DOT.
Well, when you say full access, you mean egress from the front onto 28?
Correct,
And what I'm asking is, if it's not clear, there would be no egress allowed from the parking lot onto 28. The egress would have to be out onto Depot Road West.
Yeah, sure. And again, I guess we'd leave it to Mass DOT as
Okay,
to whether,
Mass DOT.
because we have an application in with them, and so
Okay.
we'll comply with their requirements.
Okay. And is it the intention that, provided everything goes as you're requesting, the demolition delay is until September
Yep.
of 2019? That immediately thereafter, or shortly thereafter, the building would be demoed as part of your plans of construction? Or would you wait to see if then you need additional parking, and that could be 3 years from now?
I think based on, we went through the process back in September, based on, we have, you know, a structural engineer report and also a letter from the fire department recommending the demolition of the building. So our intention would be, once that delay expired, would be currently to
Right
demo
away.
the building.
Anything else, Craig?
That's all I have for now,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mary?
I just had a question through you, Mr. Chair, to Charlene. I tend to agree with your comment on the HP parking. Looks like it's awfully close to that entrance. Has the applicant had a chance to explore any alternatives for relocating that as of yet?
Not that I'm aware of. You know, it does meet the requirements that we have in our regulations. I'm just, you know, we're all familiar with Route 28, whether it's in West Harwich or in Yarmouth or Chatham for that, you know, matter. There can be backups that can occur, and so, you know, it does meet the standards.
Okay.
You know, if they could get moved to the, just to the east of the building, and come in that way, they wouldn't be right up against, you know, right in front of the entrance, but they certainly would be
It just doesn't look ideal.
right.
No, I think I do understand Charlene's comment, so I guess the
Matt, I'm sorry, unfortunately, no one can hear you at, yeah, you have to kind of,
Sure.
sorry.
No, no problem. So we do understand Charlene's comments. If you take the area that's the two ADA spaces and the striping, I guess the intention would be to turn that to a landscape island. That would then become part of our interior landscaping requirement. We could take the ADA spaces, shift them to the right so they're not in their current location, and then just provide the 2 additional spaces elsewhere where we currently have landscaping to the side of the building. And I guess that would still meet the interior landscaping and then address that comment.
I believe it would.
Okay, Joe?
If you know, is that church active?
I'm not sure. It wasn't active as of about an hour ago when I was there, but I'm not sure.
Oh, I mean, so there's nobody operating it at this point? It became a Baptist church, and I don't know.
I don't know what the, I don't know.
Don't know, Judge. Okay. Any more questions from the board? David, do you have any questions?
No.
Craig?
I do have one question. You mentioned retail establishment and could be anything, and I think one of the things you mentioned was a Dollar General, was like a dollar store. Does that fall under the same classification, and I don't know the right person to ask, as any other retail establishment?
For the
Like-
purposes of our zoning, retail is retail.
Sales retail.
So it could be a Dollar General, or
Yeah.
it could be an auto
They,
parts.
they
or it
don't need to disclose what
could- Right.
the retail use is. They're not required to. For the purposes of zoning and the purposes of parking, it's all based on retail.
Joe?
I just want to remind the board that across the street, my best way of describing it, is where that Habitat for Humanity proposal is,
Proposal is,
for 4 units.
yeah. Okay,
No,
It's down.
it's further
It's down in
now.
here.
It's further.
It
it's
is further down.
It's further
This
east.
It's further east.
Okay.
yeah. So it's this way.
It's further east this
East,
way.
yeah, okay. Okay, so now, if there are no more comments or questions from the board, we would like to open it up to the public for comments. I'd like to remind everybody, let's keep it civil and positive, and make your point, and let's make sure everybody gets a chance to speak. So, if anyone would like to speak up, please identify yourself and where you live and make your point.
Hi,
Aye.
my name is Elizabeth Williams. I'm a 13th generation Cape Codder and a Harwich native. I am a business owner across the street at 45 Route 28 West Harwich. For 20 years, my husband and I have been restoring and maintaining the buildings there that date from 1827. Cape Cod is a very unique place. The country as we know it started here, and many descendants of the original settlers still call it home and cherish that long history. There are not many places in the U.S. where generations have lived continuously for 400 years, and that so many homes from the 17th, 18th, 19th century, both modest and grand, still stand. These set the tone for architecture throughout the Cape. Whether you grew up here or have recently moved here, we are all stewards of that history. We owe it to our town and future generations to preserve what is uniquely ours. The people of West Harwich are working hard, trying to preserve our heritage and the character of our village by establishing a national registered district. This is largely a residential area with small businesses scattered in. Many of the retail buildings that are there are empty, as are many of the retail spaces in Dennisport less than half a mile away. We have reached out to the owner of 5228 to see if the home, even partially, could be saved. They were not interested in meeting or working with us. Our history and our heritage doesn't matter. It can all be swept away for cheesy dollar stores and strip malls without even a conversation. Why can't we have thoughtful planning that would support our village?
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name's Duncan Berry. I live at 37 Route 28, which is kind of catty corner. If you look at the bottom of the lower left of the image on the screen, you'll see the gable, the mansard roof house. I live directly across from that. So we're looking at the corner of my property being within 10 feet of the opening onto 28 here. I invite anybody on the board to please come and sit on my front porch on any day of the, or any summer month, take any day of 100 days, and you know, the clock that I get, the data that I've read is we get 1,200 vehicles an hour dumping from a 4-point intersection at Belmont to a 5-point intersection less than half a mile away at Division Street. This would be unbelievably disruptive to the traffic flow, considering also that at the mansard roof place across the street, you have 8 Section 8 housing units and about a dozen cars. Across the street, directly across the street, you have the pantry with another 8 parking spaces. The idea that we're going to have this flushing through of constant additional traffic from a party that refuses to identify themselves in a neighborhood which, as Beth just explained, I'm the 5th consecutive generation to live there. I'm a 12th generation. I come from one of the founders of the town here. So, I mean, it's just unbelievable that a helicopter is going to come in and drop a building that has a pointed gable and, you know, kind of painted white surfaces, and that's going to be acceptable. I think it's kind of betrays what we've been trying to do in our neighborhood and our historic district, and I think we would be well to really consider that the economics of the situation are in direct conflict to the cultural values of the people in the village. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Anyone else in the audience?
My name is Nancy Pollard. I live on North Road, abutting the Herring River, and within the Captain's Row area. I don't even know how to begin, but I'm really upset. First of all, I'm more upset, or just as upset, by the fact that you're saying that we have absolutely no control over what business goes into an area of our town. I find that appalling. And I find it really appalling that these gentlemen cannot or will not advise us as to what their plans are. It really makes a big difference in what we're going to locate in that section of our village. A dollar store, an auto supply store, a liquor store, whatever. It doesn't belong in any of those categories. There's a 7-Eleven within, what, an 1/8 of a mile? There's a church on the other corner. There's an empty building across the street. Let's see, what's the 4th one? The 4th one is the Family Pantry little gift shop thing. I've been coming here since I was 2 years old, to West Harwich, per se. Never thought I would see the day that something like this would be even thought of to be okay to put in. We have all worked hard in this area to bring about Captain's Row, to make it an historical district for what it used to be. And now this. This is a real setback, and I'm ashamed that this would even be considered for that piece of parcel of land. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Pollard. And by the way, when you were waving back there, I didn't know you couldn't hear, so I'm sorry for that, but, you know, thanks again. Anyone else? Well, I really,
Chairman?
yeah, Joe?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion to continue this matter, but before I do that, I would like to have our staff make arrangements to have somebody appear from the police department. They've given us, I think that's the longest recommendation that I've ever seen from those folks.
From the police department.
And I'd like to be able to talk to them.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Have they addressed those, the police department?
They've addressed some of it, but one of the major issues is they did a traffic count that's, they say, is a lot different than what the applicant said his traffic count was.
So they, in their recommendations, they gave a traffic count for, I believe it was Depot Road West, basically the daily traffic, I think they counted over 2 days. And then they also asked us about our trip generation. They asked us about seasonal factors, potentially different retail uses have different generations. So we had responded to them that the use that we chose would be the highest among just general retail stores. Obviously, if it was a Dunkin' Donuts or a gas station or something like that, that would be more traffic. But for general retailers, which we're permitting as,
Well,
be the
in any
greatest.
event, Mr. Chairman, for our purposes,
Yes.
I'd like to have the police department.
I can certainly ask Lieutenant Considine
Yeah, I
if
think-
he's able to attend.
Yeah, I think.
Thank you.
Okay,
This is Dave.
Dave, go ahead.
I did not receive a copy of the police department's comments in my package.
They were in my staff report.
They're in the staff report, David, and we just got a full copy of the staff
And I
report
did
tonight.
send him, no,
Yeah,
you
you got it
got it
electronic.
electronically.
Got it.
Oh, did he?
Over
Okay.
2 weeks ago, you all did.
Yep.
They're,
Yeah, it
they're
was-
alluded to in the staff comments, but they're not incorporated.
Actually, they're incorporated verbatim. I cut and pasted their comments into my staff report.
They're on page 4, David.
Yeah,
They are on page 4.
yep.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir,
I just had one question. Regarding the store, is this intended to be a year-round
Yes.
store? So not seasonal? Okay.
okay.
Move to continue.
Second.
Charlene?
You need to do that to a date and time certain.
Okay, when's our next meeting?
The next meeting is the 12th. If there's going to be any revisions or further information from the applicant, we would need it no later than next Tuesday. I don't know if that's enough time. The meeting
Let's-
after that is the 26th of March.
That's 26.
26th, then I mean, we want to have, give Lieutenant Considine time, right, to,
Move to continue to March 26th.
And if I'm sorry, not to be rude, before we continue, I just want to make sure there's no other items the board would want us to look, or if it's worth going through the approval criteria. Just want to make this as productive as possible so we can address everything
Sure.
that we can.
This is Dave again. There was no page 4 in my package.
Yeah,
I sent, you asked me to send it to you just before I made copies for the board members. I sent it to you just
would,
Son of a-
about a half hour ago.
would you,
Oh, that's why I didn't get it.
okay, he's probably not sitting. How many are there, Charlene? Quite a few
How many?
recommendations from the police department?
Many of them have already been addressed by the applicant.
Okay. Would it be worth reading those not addressed into the record so that,
I don't have which have and haven't,
All
to
right.
be honest with you.
okay. Well, that's
When
even,
this got continued from the 12th, additional information was submitted. It was basically a wash. You know, meaning that they seem to be satisfied. They had one final question, which I forwarded along, and for the life of me, I can't remember what that was.
I can clarify that. So I think the last question they had asked about was the site distance line along Depot Road West. I'll pull up the aerial.
Yes, that's right. But we, you know, he will be here. I mean, if the board
Yeah.
would, you know, would want to see the HP spaces moved from where they are right now.
So there are some trees on our property corner. You can't really see them because the picture is taken in the winter, but those block some site distance going along that way, so those will be removed. There's an arborvitae row in front of 12 Depot Road West.
Yep.
We provided a site distance exhibit reflecting that met the minimum site distance requirements. That said, Lieutenant Considine said if there's any way we can move those, they would fully support that and kind of suggested it. We're, again, open to it, just we can't promise the compliance with number 12 Depot Road. They might be somewhat resistant to it. They're in the right-of-way, so I think if the town ever did want to remove them, they could. But again, we don't want to do anything to.
They're not on your property.
They're in the right-of-way in front of 12 Depot Road West.
Okay.
And again, we meet it, but we'd be open to removing them if the town compelled it. Again, it's just,
So Mary, you have a comment?
I would assume so, yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, I'd just be interested in seeing the revised plans with other options for the HP spaces. And we had a couple of comments from abutters regarding screening. So you had mentioned fencing earlier. If, I frankly don't recall whether that was in one of the plans or not.
Actually, there is a, going the wrong way. There is a
Landscape
fence.
Yeah.
And I know one of the abutters had asked if we could put a fence. Sometimes the lines are hard to see on the plans. We have proposed a 6-foot-high solid wood fence
Okay.
along the entire northern property boundary. So I think hopefully that satisfies their concern.
Okay.
Need a vote on the continuance?
Well, I,
There was a motion, there was never a second, so you kind of need to
Yeah.
start over on the motion.
Seconded.
you'll
Thank you.
second that? Okay. Ms.
Sorry, I
Pollard,
have one more question.
would you stand up, please? You're Ms. Pollard, correct?
Yes. From this diagram here, to the left, the brown square is the building, correct?
Proposed building.
Proposed,
Yeah.
yes. What is the other brown edifice to the right?
That's the existing.
Capture the-
That's the existing,
That's the house.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Move to close.
No, you don't close it.
You don't close it.
because we're continuing.
We're going to
Yeah,
continue?
you have a motion and a second to continue this to
Okay,
March
we're-
26th
Okay, so we're going to continue
At
this.
6:30 PM.
at
Yeah,
6:30 PM.
6:30 PM, okay? So we're going to proceed a little carefully and a little slowly on this issue. There are a lot of considerations I think we need to look at. So
You do need a vote.
we'll vote by roll. So this is a vote on the continuance, David. We'll begin with you.
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Ellen?
Aye.
Aye, as well. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Sir?
do we need to do anything with Joe's request to have the police come to
No.
that?
I just asked him.
No, Charlene will, we're good on that. But thank you so much. I mean, that's,
Trying to,
I like sitting next to you.
okay. So,
trying to
the
figure it
next,
out.
topic we have is PB 2019-06 Davenport Companies. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, it's a little distracting.
Oh, wait. Oh. Yeah, there's your-
Okay, go ahead.
Do you need to read?
Read it in?
You need to?
Yeah, no, I'll read it in. So PB-2019-06 Davenport Companies is applicants, care of BSC Group, Inc., Kieran Healy. PLS, John Pina. Owner seeks approval of a use special permit with waivers for a two-family dwelling pursuant to the Code of the Town of Harwich, Sections 325-13, point A, dash 51 and dash 51N, as set forth in the Mass General Code, C 40A, Section 9. The property is located at 379 Main Street, map 47, parcel G3-3, in the RL district.
Thank you very much. For the record, I'm Paul Tardif. I'm an attorney in Yarmouthport, and seated with me here is Kieran Healy from the BSC Group.
Yep.
And on this side is Christian Davenport from the Davenport Companies.
Christian.
And as you indicated, we are seeking a use special permit to allow for the construction of a duplex on a lot in the RR zoning district. This lot is currently unimproved, treed, has about 1.03 acres. There is actually 44,833 square feet of upland. A very small portion of it is wetland. The structure is going to meet all of the current zoning setbacks, with building coverage to be at 4.7%, where 15% maximum is required, and also a lot coverage of 8%, where 25% maximum is required. The lot has 245 feet of frontage on Main Street. The property does abut wetlands and a riverfront area, but the property has been presented and approved by the Harwich Conservation Commission already. And based on this lot and the configuration, the proposed structure has really been located in the only practical place on the lot, which is the upper left-hand corner. The proposal is to construct one two-family structure on the lot pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 51N. We believe we meet all four of the criteria listed there. One is the lot area shall contain a minimum of 40,000 square feet of contiguous upland, which we do. Two, the floor area for each dwelling unit shall be a minimum of 800 square feet. In this case, each side of the duplex will contain approximately 1,600 square feet. A common roof or series of roofs shall connect the dwelling units. This is a classic duplex. If you look at it from the plans, you'll see there's one roof covers the entire, all the living space on 2 floors. And there shall be 2 off-street parking spaces per each unit, which, according to the plan, we have provided. We also believe that this project will not cause any undue nuisance, hazard, or congestion, and no substantial harm to the neighborhood. There are a few other residential structures on the road. There's not a lot else that could be done on this lot. I think this is a good plan, and I think this is the extent of what we could do. And so we're seeking the special permit. We hope that you agree. If you have questions, we're here to answer those for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Charlene?
They have asked for several waivers, which I think are quite appropriate. 2 copies of a notarized affidavit, 2 sets of drainage calculations, locations of dumpsters, etc., and a landscaping plan. Those are not typical for a residential development, so I think those are well within reasonable requests. Comments from other departments. Health, fully compliant septic system will be required. No variances from Title V or local regulations will be granted. A 2-compartment septic tank or 2 septic tanks in series are also required. A disposal system construction permit must be applied for prior to any building permit application approval. Engineering asked, is there proposed water service or soil tests? Again, that will all fall under the Board of Health jurisdiction and the Water Department's jurisdiction. Fire, police, and highway had no concerns. As Attorney Tardif mentioned, the Conservation Commission did approve this under notice of intent number SE 32-2361. And Highway Department, roads always fails snow and ice inspection, no services for all 3 lots, so they won't be able to be paved, or not paved, but whether they'll plow or not is another question in that area. Comments pursuant to section 325, 51N, the requirement criteria for issuing a special permit are as follows. Minimum lot size of 40,000 square feet of contiguous upland. The lot does contain 44,833 square feet. The floor area for each dwelling unit shall be a minimum of 1,800 square feet. The floor area of each unit contains 1,600 square feet. Common roof or series of roofs shall connect the units. There is one common roof line. There shall be a minimum of 2 parking spaces for each unit that has been provided. Again, the requested waivers are reasonable and standard conditions are recommended.
Okay, so our next steps, if we're comfortable with voting, then we should. So, any comments from the board? Craig?
Mr. Chairman, a question. The Highway Department road always fails snow and ice inspection. Is Link or whomever referring to Main Street or the existing kind of dirt road path?
Not the dirt road path.
So he's referring to Main
Yeah.
Street, it always fails, and he's simply saying that, I guess I don't understand the correlation between that and the no services for all 3 lots.
I'm not sure,
Okay.
to be honest with you.
Okay, I just,
I don't know if he cut and pasted from the wrong thing or what,
Okay.
but, yeah.
but the point being that there are no special services for these 3 lots that.
Well, this is only one lot that they're requesting
Yeah,
approval for the duplex, so.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Mary?
It is a road that the town currently maintains.
I thought it was, so.
And
I don't
was
always
too.
question the comments that I get from other departments.
We-
There are other houses on that road, so,
On Main Street.
yeah,
Right.
It is a public road.
yeah.
It is a public layout, so I think as Charlene said, that might have been copied and pasted from a different
Yeah,
section.
I'm not quite
Okay.
sure what happened there, but.
Okay. Anything else from the board? Sir?
This is a 2-family, not a 4.
2-family.
I'm sure, I'm either confused on this or, is the request for 2 lots?
No, it's one parcel requesting a duplex.
Duplex.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The comments from Highway are a little confusing.
Yeah.
And
Go, Joe?
are these going to be similar? What's the road to the dump?
Queen
Where
Anne.
you,
Yeah.
on,
Fion's Way. We
Yeah.
did a few years ago. A little different layout because of the site. We couldn't put those same homes there.
If you remember, those are 2 separate buildings connected by
in the, I know,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
storage area. We didn't have enough width to do that on this, so we pushed them together. We took the middle section out and just made it into a classic duplex.
I got you.
If you go to page 2 of your
I
plans.
have it. Oh, yeah.
It shows what the design of the building would be.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, are there any more questions from the planning board? David, you good?
Yes.
Okay, are there any questions from anyone in the audience? Any issues? No one? Okay. Then, Joe?
I think we have to close.
Yes, sir.
Move to close the hearing.
Second?
All in favor by roll? David?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Aye. So that's unanimous. So the hearing is now closed.
Move to adopt the following findings of fact. 1, the lot contains a minimum requirement of 40,000 square feet of upland. 2, each dwelling unit's floor area is greater than 800 square feet minimum requirements. 3, a common roof connects the dwelling units. 4, the parcels provide a sufficient access for 2 spaces for each unit. 5, the use as developed will not adversely affect the neighborhood. 6, the specific site is an appropriate location for such a use, structure, or conditions. 7, there will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
Roll call. David?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Aye.
Move to approve the following waivers from Section 400-4 of the Harwich Code. 1, 2 copies of a notarized affidavit. 2, 2 sets of drainage calculations and hydrogeologic impact statement. 3, location of dumpsters, service areas, loading areas, maneuvering areas, existing driveways within 100 feet of site, sidewalks, freestanding signs, subsurface drainage, drainage facilities, drainage plan, traffic circulation arrows, curbing, fencing, retaining walls, wheel stops. 4, landscaping plan.
Okay.
Second.
Mary seconded that. By roll call, the vote, David?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Aye. So called, so carried. Next,
Move to approve a use special permit with waivers for PB 2000.
Excuse me, can you move down to the second one?
Certainly. Move to approve with conditions a use special permit with waivers for PB 2019-06, Davenport Companies as applicants, care of BSC Group, Inc., Kieran Healy, PLS, John E. Pina, owner, for a two-family dwelling pursuant to the code of the town of Harwich, 325-13A-51 and 51N, as set forth in MGL Chapter 40A-9, for property is located at 375 Main Street, map 47, parcel G3-3, in the R-L district, based on the aforementioned findings of fact and the fact that the application meets the necessary requirements and criteria for approval with the following conditions. 1, the applicant shall comply with all Board of Health requirements. 2, the special permit decision shall be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. 3, any changes to the plan shall be subject to further planning review.
Second.
okay, by roll call, David?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Aye. So carried. Next? That's it?
That's it.
Thank you.
That's it?
you very much.
So,
Thank you
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, so the next part of the meeting is the public portion, new business, PB 2019-05, Mark and Andrea Toomey, applicants, Thaddeus Eldridge, East Southeast LLC representative, Susan C. Stinson, TR, owner. The proposal seeks approval of a 2-lot preliminary subdivision plan pursuant to the Code of the Town of Harwich, Chapter 400, Article 2, is set forth in MGL, Chapter 41, Section 88K-GG. The property is located at 0 Long Pond, map 102, parcel E1-2 in the RR zoning district. This is from the 2/12 meeting, canceled due to snow. So, Mr. Eldridge.
Good evening. And it was a wicked storm for a little bit.
Yep.
So as mentioned, I'm here representing the Toomeys, who are looking to purchase the property from the Stinsons. They'd like to construct a 2-lot subdivision. There was a 2-lot subdivision prepared years ago. The rules have changed slightly since then. And so we do need to seek a number of waivers in order to divide this parcel into 2. The road itself requires a little bit of help. The topography really does not lend itself to a traditional roadway or one under the recommended geometric designs. And so we are requesting a waiver for the vertical curve at the entrance and several other vertical curves along the road. The calculated site distance for the first hump as you head in is just over 100 feet, and that's going from, I'm going to write it down, I believe it's 4 feet down to 6 inches above pavement This first curve is going to bump up and not enable somebody to be able to see over it. It's likewise with the cul-de-sac. There would be sightline distances, with the exception you'll be able to see back from the cul-de-sac. The location of the paved road, we were able to get this to work best by bobbling it in the beginning, bringing it in off-center. We're 4 feet from the top of the Cape Cod berm to the property line, so we still maintain some separation to the abutter. By doing that, we avoid having to perform very steep grading of the hillside to the west. So the width of the road is being proposed at 16 feet wide, 1 foot Cape Cod berms, and 2 foot shoulders with 2 to 1 side slopes. And additionally, the proposed drainage, for the beginning of the road, we can only get it to work by collecting within the Long Pond Drive layout, and we do have a proposed leach pit that is mostly within the Long Pond Drive layout. That will, we may be able to pull that back a little bit when we do the full design, but we're anticipating the worst-case scenario with it. So the width of the lot was providing challenges to meet the shape factor requirement, and we had proposed the cul-de-sac within an easement so that we could make it easier. Town planner has said she didn't really care for that, and we have put our Tetris skills to the test, and we can make this work with 2 lots that meet the shape factor requirements. And the applicant would also like for the board to consider waiving the underground utility requirement. He's going in and attempting to keep this as cost-effective as possible. I realize there were a number of sheets. Because there were a number of waivers requested, we wanted to make sure that we were thorough with the application. And if there are questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, Charlene?
This was one of the most thorough preliminary application plans I've ever seen. First of all, other department comments, conservation, the road is shown in conservation jurisdiction only by a little sliver, and will need to have some kind of review by conservation, whether it's an administrative review, a notice of intent, that's to be determined later, but it is a doable thing. The Board of Health, in my original comments, said that they would be taking this up on February 12th. Their meeting got canceled because Town Hall was closed. They actually took this up at their meeting on the 19th of February. They did approve it and imposed 2 conditions. Lots shall be served by town water, and fully compliant septic systems are required to serve each lot. Engineering, they provided a lengthy memo dated the 17th of January. I'm not going to go into great detail on that at this time, because for a preliminary subdivision, they're only required to show drainage in a general manner. So he knows what he needs to look at the time of the definitive plan. Police had no concern, highway had no concern, or excuse me, police and fire had no concern. Highway, the applicant seeking to place storm water catch basins within Long Pond Drive right-of-way, which is typically permitted. Mr. Nickerson, who's the maintenance manager, believes that the applicants are seeking this request to prevent altering the grade to carry the water onto their road and away from Long Pond Drive. If the situation requires drainage being placed in the town-owned right-of-way, he should support the request, but he believes that it is possible to adjust grades and direct the flow in another direction. DPW does discourage private drainage within a public right-of-way, primarily as there's no way to delineate between what's town and what's private. He would ask the board to discuss the possibility of adjusting the grade to allow all drainage systems to be placed in the private right-of-way. Again, this is a preliminary plan. They're only required to show preliminary drainage. If they do move forward to a definitive, that would have to be addressed at that point. Couple things. One, the assessor's map was missing from the preliminary plan. The second is, this is certainly a different plan than what the planning board has reviewed in the past. Based on what has been shown for this plan, it is my opinion that the plan does not provide for a cul-de-sac within the road right-of-way. It does provide it in an easement. Table 1, Section 400, recommended geometric design standards for roadways, provides for minimum radius of circular turnaround to curb or to the edge of pavement of 45 feet. There is no radius of turnaround proposed for the roadway itself because there's no cul-de-sac. Therefore, this does not meet the standards. A waiver would be required. We did a brief research of past subdivision plans and could find no other plan where this has been contemplated. Thad and I had several conversations and did meet in person to go over it. He knows that I am not in favor of no cul-de-sac. He has indicated, and I think that the board, if it does prefer to move forward with approving this, which I think actually they can, condition it that it would have to show a cul-de-sac as part of the road right-of-way. Each lot does have minimum required frontage. However, again, there's no formal cul-de-sac. With the turnaround provided as an easement, we've already said that. The number and types of plans submitted as part of the plan is significantly more than required by the rules and regs. I do believe that this is an approvable plan with conditions. Thad and I talked, it's not in my staff report. The waiver of the cul-de-sac I am not in favor of, and the waiver of underground, or the waiver from providing underground utilities I am not in favor of. Every other subdivision in town is required to put them underground. There's a reason for that. So all the other waivers, however, at this time, I really have no concern with. I do remind the board that any conditions that they may consider at the preliminary plan process, you're not locked in at the definitive plan process. You know, this could be a totally different board the next time this comes in as a definitive, and so a preliminary is just for that, to look at it preliminarily. But I do believe the board is in a position that they can approve this with the condition that a cul-de-sac be shown as part of the road right-of-way.
Charlene, I have to say, I'm surprised that fire shows no concerns on this plan.
I don't think that they were looking at what was designed with a turnaround.
Yeah.
And that meets the standards, so for that, they were fine. But from the standpoint of subdivision control law and the zoning, they're required to have a cul-de-sac as part of the road right-of-way. So that's where I was coming from. You know, Thad and I kind of went back and forth on this, but I said I was going to be pretty adamant that, you know, in my opinion, and it's a strong opinion, I think you gathered that the cul-de-sac does need to be part of the actual road right-of-way.
I mean, from where I sit,
And they can do it. I mean, it's not like they can't.
I'm not the only person, I'm just a member of the board like everyone else, but I think there's a reason for that has to do with emergency response that, you know, I certainly am, so.
And the other thing, if I might, with it being not part of the road right-of-way, the town would not pave this road, or would not plow this road. So, you know, that's another reason, because it would be on an easement, and it's not part of the road.
Of course, if you're offering for the town to pave the road, if we
No,
put in
not
a
pave, sorry,
cul-de-sac, we'd be more than happy to take
misspoke.
it.
Okay, Joe. Thanks, Charlie.
I just want to make sure what we're approving.
Yes, sir.
If we vote to approve, we're going to improve the turning circle?
What it would be my recommendation to the board is that you approve, it would be number 3, to approve with condition and or modification. And the modification would be that a cul-de-sac be provided as part of the road right-of-way.
Number 4.
Well, that, number 4 is to
No,
deny.
forward to deny. But
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm
this,
looking
yeah.
at that. Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
This one, yeah, right,
before you do,
yeah, okay.
but they call it a turning circle. Is that what you,
No.
A turning circle is within the easement. It's not part of the road layout. It's not part of the road right-of-way, the way they've presented it.
okay. And where does I don't see the cul-de-sac.
It's not there, that's the
That's
problem.
what we would condition in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And where would it be?
it would be exactly
At the
where
end.
they're showing the
The turning-
proposed turnaround. They have the ability to put a cul-de-sac in there as part of the road right-of-way,
I understand.
so they can do it, and they should do it,
Okay.
to meet
And-
the
and-
standards.
And are you telling me that they would then have to submit a second,
No,
another?
at the time of the definitive.
I got you,
Yeah,
okay.
at the time of the planning board has 3 options available to it: to approve with conditions and or modifications, or to deny. Under subdivision control law and under mass general law, those are the 3 options for a preliminary plan.
Okay, I understand now.
Any other comments?
Dave, I have a question.
Yep.
I'm not sure I'm understanding this plan. I'm looking at drawing 3 of 6, where it shows what looks like a cul-de-sac, but it's not on the road. It's part of it's on the lot.
Exactly.
And as you pull in, and if you follow the U.S. as opposed to the British standard, you're going around the cul-de-sac. If you want to pull in to continue into Lot 2, I could see Dale Earnhardt going off the track and into the crowd.
Lot 2 is a panhandle lot, which is allowable under our subdivision control.
This, yeah.
But what they're not showing, Dave, they're showing a turnaround, but they're not showing a cul-de-sac.
I understand. It looks like a cul-de-sac, but it's really a turnaround.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's not part of the actual road right-of-way.
But to get to Lot 2, you wouldn't take the turnaround, you just go straight down the road, right?
Right, because it would be a panhandle lot. When they come in for the definitive plan, they have to show how they're going to access Lot 2.
Thank you.
Okay. The other concern I have is the 135-degree right turn when you get to Long Pond Road Drive. I'm surprised that the police didn't have any concerns about that.
I am
Such
too.
a hairpin turn of cars turning right there, straying into the oncoming lane.
David, I don't, they made no comments on this, so,
I understand that. I'm surprised they didn't.
yeah, yeah.
The only
How
thing
could you do it without taking a chunk of Christina A. Goodrich's land?
Exactly. Maybe they ought to buy a little of that, make it parallel or perpendicular to the Long Pond. Anyway, it seems borderline safe to me.
Yeah,
But I'm not concerned because it's preliminary.
yeah. Craig?
I share the exact same concerns, and I'm also surprised that the police haven't commented on that.
I really am too.
Yeah. I do have a question. When you first began the presentation, you were speaking about the reason that it is coming at it at an angle, which I understood. But you also mentioned elevations, 4 inches or 4 feet to 6 inches, I think.
Yes, there's a sightline distance requirement in the bylaw or in the regulations, that we're supposed to be able to see from a height of 4 feet. How far can you see and see 6 inches above the pavement at the far end?
So are we talking about the ability to see the sightline? Is it the sightline Long Pond Drive if you were driving, let's say, from west to east? Okay.
No, we will provide the sightline information along Long Pond Drive, but that.
It's the sightline
It's
of
the
this
sightline inside the
proposed-
subdivision itself.
Okay, so the sightline, once you get down to
Right,
the
once-
angle.
if you were to look at
this is
the
what-
sheet 4,
Right.
Okay,
as you're coming in, there's a hump in the beginning.
right. So
You'll be able to
for-
see another car coming the other direction, but if there's a squirrel on the road down here, you won't see it over that hump
Right,
when you get to the top of the hill.
thank you, Charlotte. I just think they're, with the other, Courtney Drive a short distance away on the same side, and I think there's also something on the opposite side.
Once they're out to the road, they're gonna be able to see up and down Long Pond Drive without issue. Even the road that's there today, the driveway, you can get out there and you can see the direction. It's once you get into the subdivision, the road can't meet the geometric recommendations,
Okay.
and thus the waiver request.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments from the planning board? Is there anyone from the audience that would like to comment on this proposal? Okay. Nobody? All right. So, is there a motion?
Move to approve with conditions and/or modifications the preliminary plan entitled Preliminary Subdivision Plan dated January 15, 2019, sheet 1 of 6 and sheet 2 of 2, dated 3/28/18, prepared by Mark and Andrea Toomey, scale 1 to 50, subject to the issues raised by town departments, including requirements that the Board of Health review and approval shall be required prior to the planning board holding a public hearing on the definitive application, and further, that there be a cul-de-sac as part of the road right-of-way, and further, that there will be underground utilities.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. By roll call. David?
A reluctant yes.
A reluctant yes, okay. Craig?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Ellen? Aye. Aye. So it's unanimous with one reluctant yes.
Take off the reluctant.
Thank you, David.
Okay.
Good luck. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So the next item we have is Tonka Girl LLC. Joe, can I have that document?
Oh, sorry.
This is it. Give me a moment.
No problem.
Get this plan.
No, that's the other one.
Sure, absolutely.
So we have, we're finished with the 12th.
Two birds.
Yeah, boy. Okay, so what we have here, Tonka Girl LLC, A is PB 2017-10, request to extend site plan review special permit, PB 2016-05, a request for the release of 2 lots from the planning board covenant. Okay?
Good evening. My name is Dan Ojala. I'm a land surveyor and civil engineer with Downkeep Engineering. Mike Escher's in the audience, and John O'Reilly is another surveyor and engineer. He's helping out. He did the original road design and has done the as-built and is requesting the lot releases. So the two are kind of tied together. I'll handle the first one, and John can chime in on the second. But many of you may recall this was the Tonka Girl LLC, I think is the name of one of Mike's daughter's horses, but anyway, that's kind of a unique name. But here we are on Denwich Road. This is on the end, down near the Eagle Pond, very end of the road, and we had gone over this site. It's kind of a little bit of a tricky site in that we had to get some big rigs in there. He worked with us, and we adjusted some things. Mike's a busy guy, does a lot of state contracting work, paving, he's flat out. He's been trying to coordinate this and get it together in the last a couple of years since you permitted it. But he has been held up a little bit with some of the design. He wants to get the building just right. He's working with his builder on some different structural packages and trying to get the foundation designs together and some things like that. The design professionals are all busy, so every little delay is, pushes things back another month or 3. And so here we are, and he's not sure he's going to be able to pull the trigger before the permit expires in, April. We talked to Charlene last fall, and Mike could tell he was going to hit trouble. She says, well, just wait till the spring or, February or so forth and bring it in and ask for an extension then. So here we are. It's a kind of a routine a special permit extension request. Mike bought all of the lots here, and it's a long road. He's got now he's finally got the base coat down on the cul-de-sac. All the drainage is in. It's in pretty good shape. The water has been run, tested, installed, and utilities are all underground conduits and so forth are in. So what we're looking for is a 2-year extension if the board would be so inclined. It's, again, it's a dead-end road. It's the dead end of a dead end. And we don't think we're bothering anybody by slowing the construction a little bit. And we sure would appreciate that request. We don't think we'll need that much time, but the way time flies, there's always a possibility. So rather than come back and request yet another, would appreciate a 2-year. If you have any questions or comments, and again, the road is just about there, and the lot releases, I think this is one of the things that has to happen before the permit is to release this lot, of course, for construction, so we'll be looking for that, and then if the board is so inclined, another lot, but John O'Reilly can touch base on that. I don't know if we vote on them separately or what the pleasure of the
There would
board
be
is.
two
But
very separate.
Two.
Yeah, two separate.
So, perhaps we could entertain this. Again, that part of the presentation before the request of the board was to have a common driveway here, and we did record that easement along with your decision, so that's on record, and that'll work out nicely. And again, we're bringing in the fencing and screening. We'll work with the neighbors on that.
Okay.
Good evening. John O'Reilly, J.M. O'Reilly Associates. We worked with Mike and Tonka Girl, Inc. To develop the subdivision and design the road. As you have in front of you, my cover letter, which brings you up to speed as far as where the road is at right now. All the drainage is in, utilities, water line, as Dan said, is in, tested. The utilities conduits have been run, and the subbase and the binder course are installed. So I also give you a list of some outstanding items. One of them is adjust the drainage, install the finished bituminous concrete, clean up, and loam and seed the shoulders. So what we're asking for is a 2-lot, 2 of the 4 lots be released. Lots 4, which is Dan was just representing, and then Lot 3, which is just due north with a common driveway. So that's about it. The road is, we've done inspections, and the road is built to plan.
Sure. Thank you. Charlene?
I'll take the first request for the extension of the site plan special permit. I understand the request and the desire to have 2 years. However, I could find no provision anywhere that allowed for a 2-year extension through all the digging that I did. But certainly, I do believe that the board is able to grant a 1-year extension for this, for the site plan. And that would be my recommendation at this time, that the board grant no more than 365-day extension from April 11, 2019. I don't know if you want to take these individually or if you want me to go on to the next one.
Why don't you go?
Okay.
Go ahead.
With regard to request number 2 for the release of covenant, at this time, as I'm sure you know, we do not have a town engineer, so there is no entity to review the request. I do have the utmost confidence in Mr. O'Reilly's assessment of the status of the road, and the former town engineer did perform an inspection in January prior to his retirement. He did find a couple low points where water was puddling. I don't think that's a major issue. I think that may be more of a result of some runoff from the sides of the road. Section 411G of the Harwich Code does provide the planning board can allow for a partial release of covenant. Subparagraph 4 of this section further requires that either the remaining lots or other performance guarantees shall cover 150% of the remaining cost estimate of the work to be completed without a cost estimate, and the fact that an $8,000 payment in lieu of constructing a sidewalk is required, I have relied on the assessed value of the lot based on the, by the assessors, which would appear that there would be more than 150% of the remaining work. So if the board was inclined to do 2 lots. That being said, I do have concerns with Dunwich Road, and I have met with Mike a couple times. We met last week with the building commissioner. There are currently uses taking place in the property which do not have proper permits. Stockpiling, earth moving, and related issues are taking place on the property which appear to be in violation of the town bylaws. A complaint has been filed with the building commissioner regarding this matter. Full disclosure, that complaint was from me as the town planner. The only parcel that the site plan review approval is Lot 4, and that is the only lot within the 4-lot subdivision that does have any site plan approval. We did talk at length, Mike and the building commissioner and I, last week, talked about, you know, some confusion on his part and what he was really allowed to do at the parcel. We are working with him to rectify the situation that's going on Dunwich Road, and I do believe that we can get that resolved. At this time, however, I would only recommend that the board release 1 lot, and that would be Lot 4. That's the only lot that requires a building permit. I know that there's an easement for access to Lot 3. That doesn't need to be released from covenant, in my opinion, for them to move forward with the development of Lot 4.
So that won't hold anything up?
I don't believe that it will, because there's no building permit necessary for Lot 3.
Okay.
If at the time, prior to the occupancy permit being issued, he will have to do the $8,000 in lieu of putting in the sidewalks. At that point, it may be in a position that, you know, Lot 3 can be released at that same time. It would be my further recommendation, because they have filed the request and the application to cover the release of 2 lots, that in the future, if Lot 3 were requested to be released, Lot 3 in and of itself, not with the other 2 lots, that a new fee not be required to release Lot 3. If Lot 1 and 2 are to be released, then yes, they would have to pay that fee. But I would not recommend that a additional fee be required for Lot 3 if they come in at the time, you know, that they're ready to develop and get their occupancy permit.
Okay.
I hope that made sense.
Thank you, Charlene. Joe?
Charlene,
Yes, sir.
so, just so I know what I have to do for a motion, we would...
There's 2 separate motions. You wanna
I
take-
know
yeah,
that.
Yes,
On 21710,
yes.
we would move to extend the site plan review special permit from April 11th, 19 to April 11th, 20th,
April 10th.
It would be April 10th.
April 10th,
Yep.
2020.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll start with that. I make a motion under PB 2017-10 that we extend the site plan review special permit from April 10th, 2019 to April 10th, 2020.
Second.
It's April 11th, 2019 to April 10th,
10th,
2020.
2020.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
She thought you did.
Okay.
I'll still second.
You'll second that? Okay. So we'll take a vote by roll. David Harris?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Aye. So that motion has been carried.
Then, with respect to PB 2016-05, I move that we release 1 lot from the planning board covenant, lot number 4.
Second.
One question, if I may.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Charlene, are you comfortable with the non-compliance?
At this time, we are, again, you know.
I thought that's what you said, I just
Yes,
wanted
yep.
to
We're working
clarify
with
that.
Mike. I have offered to meet with his engineer and also his attorney Whatever I can do to assist him so that we can get this
All right.
where it's supposed to be, yes.
Okay. Good?
Good, thank you.
Go ahead, Joe.
I already moved it.
Seconded. Okay, by roll call, David?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Aye.
And if I could get the board's signatures on this document where it says planning board signatures,
Okay.
that is the release of covenant. We will get that notarized tomorrow and send that to
Yeah, sign it.
you, Mike? Okay.
Okay.
To Mike.
I'm planning on putting the top coat and finishing that road.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
luck.
very much for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Charlene, this is Dave. I have a question while they're signing. Should I keep my package for Harwich Retail?
Yes, keep your package for Harwich Retail, please. All of you, please, keep your,
Yeah.
if you can find them. Ellen, if you can sign that.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I was
Thank you.
You were in the- you
immersed
were
in
so in-
thought.
Deep thoughts.
Thank you, that's not my pen, I don't know whose pen that is.
It's mine.
Okay,
Next.
so the next we have the meeting minutes from January 29th. Vote to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, or all in favor by roll call. David?
Abstain, I don't have them.
Okay. Craig?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Also aye. So it's, we've got a quorum, we've got 5, so it's carried.
Yeah.
Next, we have advisory opinions.
Mr. Chairman?
Sir?
I just want to point out that, once again, it looks to me like we have 2 matters down in the campground. I mean, every time we turn around, and I'm not looking to stop them or vote against them, or not that we have that authority anyway, but here's 2 more matters down in the campground, and some one of these days, this board's going to have to look at that zoning. I've been talking about that for more years than I want to say, but.
If I might, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
We are hopefully going to be getting funding to start the update of the local comprehensive plan. And that is the kind of thing that would come up
There.
there as recommendations and such.
We really need that comprehensive plan.
And it's, right now, budget shows that we've got the funding. We're inching towards town meeting, so hopefully it will stay in there and we can get going on that.
How much of a budget are they?
We've requested $200,000. We're actually in very good shape
Good.
because we have a number of other plans that are already approved that can just kind of fit right into that. But we will be looking at, you know, all the different areas in the villages as part of the comprehensive plan.
Tonight's meeting is evidence that we need something like that, right?
And by the way, to finish that other issue on the campground.
Yep.
I would commend to anybody, and I know you don't have that much time free, but to take a ride down Cross Street and go all the way down and out to the water and across the front, and you'll have a chance to see what I'm talking about in terms of not everyone, but many of those homes, they're constantly remodeling them, winterizing them, I think.
Yes.
And so,
Is that something they should be doing or not be doing?
I think they can do it.
And because they have to go to zoning board of appeals, they're probably 99.9% of the lots down there are pre-existing non-conforming because it was an old campground.
Yeah, yeah.
See, every house is I've seen pictures, old pictures of when it was a campground, that people camped there,
Yeah, yeah.
but that's a long time ago.
But you remember.
If
No, I
if I may,
don't.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
It is not currently a historic district. There are many who would like to see it a historic district. It is not currently a historic district in Harwich. However, a significant portion of those homes are over 100 years old, and therefore, anytime they do any construction, if it involves any bit of demolition, they have to also come before historic
Yep.
on a notice of
Mr.
intent.
Maslowski, so what your thought is that you'd like to see it made it into a historic district?
I have no opinion on it one way or another individually. Chairperson of the Historic Commission, I will say there are many on my board that I think would answer yes to that question, but not speaking on behalf of the board individually. It is an area that
And what
that
would
many
that do
have.
for it?
It would make a second historic district. Currently, we have a historic district here in Harwich Center, which requires that any time work is done, it requires a certificate of appropriateness. They have to come before us in a historic district. You can, we have, the historic district, the Historic Commission has the ability to discuss aesthetics because of the historic district. You can't do that in another zoning district. You can only do it in really a
Like the
historic
paint job
district.
next door?
Correct.
Yeah.
So every time, for example, Verizon next door here wanted to put some new equipment on the roof, and they were required to come before the Historic Commission on a certificate of appropriateness for the equipment and what the building was gonna look like from the streetscape. So Historic Commission has the right in a historic district to address the aesthetics of the property within its district. And also, we have the purview under our demo delay bylaw to impose a demo delay, like was discussed on our earlier case, in situations where homes are 100 years of age or older. So.
One of those, the house that they were talking about in that
The
earlier case.
the former rectory did come before the Historic Commission last fall. There was it was quite a long meeting. It was almost a 4-hour meeting, if I recall correctly. There was quite a number of people got up to speak in opposition. The board chose to impose the 12-month demo delay. That gives an opportunity for people to try and work something out, but it doesn't, there's no means for us to force it other than to delay.
But you saw tonight that the folks that turned out were all from that neighborhood.
Yeah, they were.
But we have what the Historic Commission has the ability to do is to impose a demo delay. We can come to an agreement with people on what they replace it with if somebody chooses to agree with us, but, there's no mechanism to force that on a demolition delay. Unlike in a historic district where we could deny something for
Aesthetic reason.
aesthetic reasons. We
Yep.
can't do that in a non-historic district.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, a question for Mary.
Yeah.
So the retail shop that was before us tonight, someone mentioned Captain's Row. They're trying to get, is it state or federal certificate?
I believe
Does
there's
that have anything to do with?
That's across the street, though,
No,
isn't
I
it
believe
does
there-
not. And we're kind of going a little bit
Yeah, we're-
far afield here.
Okay.
There is no current designation or application for a historic district
Yep.
anywhere in town.
Yep, yep.
There may be a private application for National Register recognition, but no historic district,
Okay.
nothing that I know of.
So could
If,
what's the terminology for Harwich Port Center Village Overlay District? Yeah. Could that same type of district apply to whatever they're trying to accomplish
It-
there?
Actually, I spoke with one of the gentlemen who was here this evening about a proposal to extend the overlay district in both directions from
Yeah.
Harwich Port to the town lines.
Okay. It's just another
It
approach.
did not get momentum
Yep.
in time for town meeting or to get to this board to see what you guys thought, so.
Thank
All
you.
right. You're welcome, Craig. Anything else under advisory opinions?
So nobody has anything for zoning board of appeals?
Nope.
Okay.
HDCH, anything there? We're good?
It should be HDHC, I kind of, my
HDHC,
dyslexia reared its ugly head.
it's okay. Okay, next, any old business? Go ahead.
Just a reminder that the next meeting is March 12th. You have the public hearings for the various zoning amendments.
Yep.
So anybody out there watching, if you are interested, there is a great deal of information available on the town website, on the planning board's page. If anybody has any questions prior to the public hearing, please let me know. I'm happy to discuss those amendments.
Thank you very much.
If I may, I also believe the town planner was gracious enough to give copies to the town clerk's office. So
Yes,
that
there's a
if
copy of the
people
town clerk's too.
are looking for hard copies of those text changes, we can provide them in the town clerk's office
That's
as
great.
well.
And
That's
the
great, yeah.
community development window has some as well.
Okay. Any other old business? Craig?
Mr. Chairman, old business. Right after I first got on the board, we had a presentation from the fire chief and, I don't know if the head of DPW was here, and Amy Yasowski from, I think, Conservation, about a proposal to start some very preliminary work on a, I don't know, pocket park where the flagpole is at 137 and 39.
Correct.
As a kind of a side thing to the construction of Station 2. And there was some questions raised about the microwave tower and so forth, and there was going to be further research. I was just wondering for a status report on where that's at,
Well,
and if we're going forward. Do we need to have somebody come back before us because spring is coming, and if...
At this point, there's
It's
no
dead.
proposal to do anything over there
I think,
with
Jim.
the pocket park or anything.
Is that because of the research that was done, or what?
Oh, no, nothing,
Oh.
no, not at
I
all.
believe that what killed it was the traffic at the light.
No, that wasn't even it. They just decided not to
Fire
move
chief
forward.
told me.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything from engineering, so I don't know. I know there's a fence around both the incoming power source and at the base. I don't know if that's permanent or not, so I don't know.
The white fence, that is permanent.
Is it
I
permanent?
think, in part because an old fence was falling down and it
Right.
Yeah.
looked crappy.
Yeah.
So they did get new fencing.
And on that backside, Charlene, where it's open, will they close that and
I-
post any signage or anything, or no?
I don't know. I don't know.
There should be limited access to that.
Only those who need to get in there are supposed to be in there. And I know there had been signage.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's not for this board, but, okay.
The proposal, Mr. Chairman, is to tear that building down, the old fire station.
The old fire station.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, I know. Okay, Mary?
Just as far as old business, I'm actually ahead of myself, never mind.
Okay.
I was going to do briefings.
So I've got a question, and I don't know that anyone, I know we had a candidate apply for the open position on the board. Yes. And, but I don't know if any action was taken. Has anyone heard about that, or?
I've heard nothing. I didn't even know we had an applicant.
Who are the two
There's-
selectmen that do that now?
Mr. Howell and Mr. McCaskill.
Okay, so,
I will actually be seeing Mr. McCaskill on Friday. If I think of it, I will ask him.
would you? And I don't know whether, and I'm doing this because this is all being recorded, but there are two alternate positions as well that we'd be well-served to have folks, jump in and get involved. I mean, this is
Absolutely.
So, the open position, I'd like, to stimulate at least some interest in it. I think the planning board's done a pretty good job of moving some things forward, and it's one where you'll certainly get to participate. And the other, the other two positions, if anyone can step forward, we'd appreciate that. So that's all I have for old business. Any briefings, reports by board members? Mary?
So I would just like to remind everybody that CPC did vote on 8 applications, approved 8 applications. So there will be warrant articles at town meeting. So if anyone has any questions, those warrant articles are in the draft of the draft warrant that should have been in the selectmen's packet last week.
Two questions.
Yes.
Did you have enough money?
We had enough money.
Well, that's always my concern.
Yep.
And can you give us just some idea of what you approved?
So we approved $340,000 to the Affordable Housing Trust. It was $310 for the trust and $30,000 for to support the housing coordinator work, which is currently being done by CDP. We approved monies for work to be done at the Brooks Academy Museum. That was to the tune of $130,000, if I recall correctly. We approved, that was the only historic project, as I recall, before us. We approved applications from Rec and Youth for new lifeguard stands at the beaches. Some work at Sandy Pond, including a new bathhouse at Sandy Pond.
Desperately needed.
To make it handicapped accessible. We approved monies for a new scoreboard at White House Field. We approved some monies for conservation for an open space to do the improvements to the revetment at Red River Beach to better protect the parking lot, which right now conservation is supporting through sand bagging and adding sand to it to keep that parking lot in place. So they are going through the application process to try and increase the revetment. And I feel like I'm missing one or two.
Thank you very much.
But there were a total of 8. Trying to think what else.
My brain's not working anymore.
Nothing.
I'm trying to think what else.
All
Oh, we
great
supported the
projects.
housing, we supported the Housing Institute with some funds. And I think there was one other that is escaping me at the moment.
Okay, anything else? Any other old business? Craig?
The Harwich Center Initiative next meeting is scheduled for Thursday for anybody that's interested. I attend not as a representative of the planning board, but as a resident of Harwich Center and interest. And I think the last meeting was a listening session? Is that the correct terminology?
A gathering
or
session.
whatever? And all of, I guess, the results have been compiled and they're going to be talked about at the next meeting.
Okay, good.
Just one last thing. I sent everybody an email today regarding the ethics.
Yes.
Everybody needs to redo their testing for the ethics and get their
We
certificates.
can come to your office and do that, can't
I
we?
can email it to you, right?
You can do it online.
If you can print it, because you need to be able to print, you can print it
Yeah,
as a
I've printed-
PDF.
Can I take a picture of it and email it to you?
Sure,
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Done.
But we can go to your office and do it, stand there and do it right there, right?
Well, we can,
We can set you up somewhere,
set you up
Joe.
someplace.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can do that.
one of the computers.
You can do it on your phone, Joe.
You can't print it, though.
Oh.
Yeah, you've got to be able to print it off.
Print that lovely certificate. You will not get a color certificate in the clerk's office.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
sir.
I have a process or procedural question. Specifically, I don't even remember which one. I guess it was our Harwich Retail review or presentation. and there was discussion about the police report, and Joe suggested having Mark home, or somebody come in and that we would be able to question and present.
Yep.
What is the appropriateness of myself as not necessarily a representative of the planning board, but as an individual citizen, asking some of the questions that I, for instance, asked, could you make it only an ingress from Route 28 and an egress onto Depot Road West? Would that help your traffic situation?
If if you are a planning board member, you should not be having that conversation.
Even as a citizen not representing the planning board.
But if you are
yeah,
a
but
planning
you
board
are.
member, is what I'm saying, you
Yeah.
cannot be having that
Which is
conversation.
why I asked them, that's why I wanted them here.
Here.
So that they can,
Right.
in fact, for a long time, they used to come to every meeting, the police department.
That was more for crowd
Therein
control.
lies the ethics test.
Right,
You'll-
well, yeah, I wonder, so another way to look at that might be, and I don't mean this cynically, I guess maybe I do, but by becoming a member of the planning board, I give up some rights that I have as a citizen.
Well, no.
But if there's an active application regarding a particular piece of property in front of the board,
Oh, okay, so
Then
it's not appropriate
it's
to
not
then-
appropriate, because you would be privy to information that other board members would not be.
And also, if I may, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
there is, we cannot deliberate except at a public meeting, and and individual conversations can be accumulated to be considered deliberation outside of a public meeting.
Correct.
So that's why we ask our questions at a public meeting that's posted and noticed.
And
It's-
recorded and.
And it's different. Now, if you're in a butter to that property and you had an interest, you're not giving up your right, you can always step from the planning board and speak
Sit in the audience.
and ask a question. You could
Actually,
recuse
if you're in a
yourself.
butter, you'd have to recuse
Right,
yourself.
you'd
then.
recuse yourself,
Yeah.
but even as an abutter, you would still have the opportunity to speak on your own behalf,
Exactly.
and follow, the normal procedures for recusing yourself from everything else. So it's not that you're giving up your individual rights, but as a member of the planning board, it's this, people often talk about some elected officials not going on Facebook and having those conversations, because any of those comments can be considered
be
your
construed.
deliberation, and
Yes.
Right.
it all gets attributed, and then it becomes a meeting outside of.
Motion the meeting be adjourned.
Second.
All in favor, David,
All right.
Craig, Joe,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Jim,
you hang
aye.
Nice.
Thank you.